ensayas rápido, no te sabes poner pie. Esa es una que lo ensayas rápido, no te sabes poner pie. Esa es una que
Welcome back to Civil Discourse. Now he's Paul Ogden.
He's Mark Small.
We're here on a beautiful December 1st, 2012 in front of our live audience. And
At an undisclosed location.
at an undisclosed location discussing presidential primaries. And my thesis is that they really have kind of degraded, really kind of screwed up the means by which we select candidates. For president.
The system's definitely broken. The problem is coming up with a solution.
Okay, well,
and a way of fixing things.
First of all, what about the calendar of it? I mean, I think running a presidential election campaign from the middle of the previous year, no other advanced country in this world does things like that.
The question is, how would you stop? How can you legally stop someone from campaigning? I don't think you could.
Well, I think that there are these Second Amendment people out there would say that they, just start mowing them down. They get up to talk. It's not
campaigns.
It's not April 15th yet. No, can't do that.
You could push the primaries back, which I think a lot of people would favor. The trouble is, under our Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, states really run elections, and it's really hard for the federal government to come in and set times when states could have elections. So it would be difficult unless you maybe pass a constitutional amendment.
Well, okay, but let's talk for a moment that we just in a land of make believe that we have rational members in state assemblies who are interested not so much in the welfare of their constituents as in not boring them to death, not making them really, really grit their teeth at the notion of an upcoming political campaign season. If they were to coordinate, the states were to coordinate and say, okay, look, we're all going to cut back on this because we don't like making millions of dollars as consultants in these political campaigns and jetting places like we're rock stars and acting like we're really big shots. So we're going to cut back on that and make the election campaign season shorter. Let's say we could do that.
Go tell that to New Hampshire. Go tell that to Iowa. They're going to say, no, we're not going to do that. We like these people coming into our state and spending all their money.
Yeah, but also look how, New Hampshire sets in order to win the nomination, a candidate has to meet the weird standards of an individual state.
Right.
Okay, so you have New Hampshire, and Rick Perry said, live free or die. I can dig that. I think he was drunk when he said that. But then you have Iowa, which does all of its weird Iowa caucus things. And, in Nevada and South Carolina, these are all states that aren't necessarily representative of if there is a mainstream of views in the country. Nonetheless, they have specific parochial little...
Probably a better state to start with would be Florida, except they would not get done counting the votes until several months later.
Until after the election.
Until after the election.
Sorry.
I planned that dig for a while, and I just wanted to work that in.
A bad Chris Matthews joke. There are three kinds of people in Florida, those who can count and those who can't. So, I think, though, that instead of looking at it as I think we got a problem in the specific states, but also, why can't they put them closer together so you'd have a bunch of states on several days? Because
we are having it now with Super Tuesday and mini Super Tuesday. They're getting a little bit better about putting them together.
So we could have maybe. Well, and why Tuesday? When on a weekend, when on an expanded voting basis?
Well, that's an issue for another show, but I don't think voting on a weekend would actually lead to more turnout. I think people are going to travel on weekends, and they're going to be gone. And some people talked about making election day a holiday, and you know how people are, they'll say, I'm going to take Monday off and we're going to make it a 4-day weekend. So I don't much buy that, you know, making it, put it on the weekend or making it a holiday would actually lead to higher turnout.
So as a Republican, you think that people lack the intelligence to appreciate the right to vote and exercise their franchise?
Pretty much.
Okay, so we look at if we were to compress. I mean, I think they should compress it to like maybe half a dozen weekends and maybe rotate it on who goes first. And yeah, okay, New Hampshire's not going to give up their little sinecure as first primary. This year. Florida jumped the gun and said we're not going to pay attention to what the national party says. We're going to go ahead and hold our primary early, and then they were penalized delegates.
They were. Yeah, I think their delegate size was cut in half. I think by the Republican Party. I don't know if the Democrats did. And that's another thing. Not only do you have the states can decide when to hold the primaries, but the parties can too. Just because the Republicans hold the primary on a certain day doesn't mean the Democrats have to. It just depends on the state law and what the parties want to do in that state.
And in this, I mean, in this vein, I know the Libertarians say that there shouldn't be a state-run primary election, that's a matter for the individual private parties.
And they say that not only with regard to the presidential election, but with regard to all nomination of all candidates.
And I didn't mean to imply otherwise.
And to me, the problem is we have a system in Marion County where we have slating and endorsement process before the primary.
And I think slating is great.
Yeah. Judicial slating is great.
Judicial slating.
Sorry. But anyway, it's a very closed process. The county chairman ends up picking the candidates. If you went to a convention instead of primary, you would have the party chairman picking the people, or just the party insiders picking. At least with the primary, we have the possibility that voters might actually have a say in who's nominated.
And I don't have a problem with the primary system itself as far as a primary election. I think that's very beneficial, and I think you look at manner in which presidential candidates were chosen before, like the 1950s, right. The classic smoke-filled room image, fine. It's just that I think that this particular system, starting as early as it does, means that the system is prey to several things. One, you have specific states that aren't reflective of the views of a lot of people dictating how it is that a candidate is going to have to tack. You know, because Romney probably sailed. Well, no, he's from. Well, yeah, if he sailed, he's from Michigan originally. He's going to have to determine which way he's going to go, and he went so far right wing in order to attract some voters that he just could.
You can make that argument on both sides. That both parties, whenever you're going for the nomination, you have to go to the right. If you're a Democrat, you have to go to the left.
Nobody's ever gone to the left in the Democratic Party for me.
Well, not compared to your politics, nobody could go to the left. They're always to the right of you.
John Strink has been on this show.
John might be more conservative than you.
Okay, but anyways, you have the candidates are forced to go one direction in order to cater to those voters. Two, I think it was shown with McCain's campaign in 2000 how he was hit in South Carolina. I think that it was shown in, was it 88 with Gebhardt and
Gebhardt?
I
know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but there was 2004 Gebhardt and Dean.
Gebhardt.
They hit each other massively with negative ad campaigns.
Oh yeah.
And this time Romney, I heard someone the other night describe his campaigns in the primaries as a scorched earth campaign. So once he was done, the other candidates really, and I didn't notice anybody jumping out there like Bill Clinton did for Barack Obama this time, jumping out and going on the campaign trail for Mitt Romney, whom he hit.
It was a scorched earth campaign.
Yeah. And so
he just assumed they would forget before the general election, but a lot of conservatives did not trust him, And
A lot of liberals did not trust him.
well, he didn't expect to get the liberal vote.
I know that, but a lot of Latinos didn't trust him.
Yeah.
A lot of women didn't trust him. A lot of African Americans didn't trust him. I doubt that his pool
But-
keeper trusted him.
But he still got 47% of the vote. I mean, we can't. You make it sound like, oh my gosh, Obama. Obama had 51% of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly a huge landslide.
No, but it was a very well organized campaign, so he got the percentages where he needed them.
He did get the percentage where he needed him. He won the swing. He won every swing state, almost every one. Swing state,
Except North Carolina.
except North Carolina.
So I'd say, one, you've got the timing. Two, there's a bad problem because of the negative campaigns and the way in which the primary encourages people to like try and pick one another off instead of approaching any issues.
Yeah, and what happened was conservatives didn't like Romney, so they would promote one candidate. That candidate would get knocked down. There would be another candidate. It was a very weak field, though, and Romney still had trouble winning the primary.
Yeah, because he was in a weak field. He
He
was.
was a weak candidate in a weak field.
So a third thing is the money.
It's very expensive to maintain, and that's one of the things that our panelist Matt Stone had pointed out, that that these other candidates, even if they get on a roll, they don't have the money to compete to the end, which I think a lot of it turned out to be true. They couldn't compete against Romney, who had all the establishment lined up for him.
Yeah, but Romney still didn't have the money that President Obama had.
No, but I think the money is a wash once you get to the presidential level. It's not like candidates go in, they don't know or voters go in, they don't know who the candidates are.
So do you think that Citizens United was a good decision?
No, I don't think it was a good decision for the
Okay.
reasons I've cited previously, but I don't think it really made much difference in terms of the presidential election.
Did you catch
So
what,
it had a lot of money spent.
Did you catch what Karl Rove said this week?
No.
He said, I'll tell you, got into this campaign. I knew these candidates were going to lose, but I spent, he spent like 300 or 400 million for candidates he knew was going to lose. I'm sure he didn't say that in the fundraising
No.
speeches that he gave, and he could be like indicted and convicted for fraud on that basis. That would be,
You could room with Tim Burr.
hey, they could room together.
They have roommates in prison.
No, I think they're called Sullies.
All right.
So those are three. The money comes to the third thing. What else do you see as a weakness of the primary system?
Weakness of the primary system, I think you've hit on everything. It takes too long. Candidates have to really lock into, I don't want to say extreme. I know you'll say extreme positions, far right or far left positions.
Okay, just leave the far left out
I
of
know
it. 'Cause
you
we
wanna-
haven't had the far left represented on anything in a campaign issue. And
I
wait,
disagree with that.
when?
I think the Democrats they were booing God at their convention.
They didn't boo. They didn't boo God.
Sure looked like that to the TV cameras. Granted, that may not have been what they meant, but it did appear like they were booing God, and then they
God issued a press statement afterwards.
Oh, all right.
That was he denied that he was offended at all.
their
Or she.
platform's pretty extreme.
Well, okay.
But anyway, so it takes too long.
We're at the end of this segment. We'll be right back.